Commander Vextra stared out the viewport of the flagship Relentless Pursuit, his four eyes narrowing at the blue-green planet below. The humans called it Earth. His species called it something far more appropriate, Necroverse 117. A death world. "You want us to send troops there?" Vextra asked, not bothering to hide the disbelief in his voice. High Admiral Zoltar nodded, his cranial plating glinting under the harsh lights of the command deck. "The Council has decreed it. We need their resources, and the intelligence reports suggest they are primitive enough that a single battalion should be sufficient." "With all due respect, High Admiral," Vextra said, "the intelligence reports are garbage. This is the planet that killed 3 of our reconnaissance drones within a day of deployment." Zoltar waved a dismissive hand. "Technical malfunctions, but the atmosphere is well within tolerable parameters." "The atmosphere might be," Vextra muttered, "but what about everything else?" Zoltar ignored him, sliding a datapad across the console. "You have your orders, Commander. The 8th Galactic Battalion will deploy at dawn, 20,000 of our finest warriors." Vextra's upper lip curled in frustration. The 8th was his battalion, his soldiers. And now they were being sent to die on some backwater mud ball because the Council wanted more minerals for their ridiculous luxury yachts. "Yes, High Admiral," he said through gritted teeth. "Oh, and Commander?" Zoltar paused at the exit hatch. "The Council expects results, not excuses." As the hatch closed behind him, Vextra unleashed a string of curses that would have gotten him court-martialed had anyone of rank been present. Lieutenant Kyle Ra approached cautiously. "Bad news, sir?" "The worst," Vextra sighed. "Rally the troops. We are going to need extra hazard training." 6 standard cycles later, the dropships were ready. 20 of them, each carrying 1,000 soldiers equipped with the latest battle armor and weaponry. Vextra had insisted on additional protective measures, enhanced environmental filters, reinforced exoskeletons, and maximum ammunition loads. "This is overkill," Captain Raxnav complained as technicians attached yet another layer of shielding to his combat suit. "The natives don't even have space travel." "It's not the natives I'm worried about," Vextra replied, checking his own equipment. "It's everything else. Did you read the briefing on their wildlife?" "Skimmed it," Raxnav shrugged. "How dangerous can it be? We have conquered worlds with acid oceans and methane storms." Vextra pulled up a holographic display showing a tiny creature with 8 legs. "This is called a spider. Some varieties have venom that can kill within minutes. So, we have anti-venom protocols for known toxins," Vextra countered. "This planet has over 40,000 venomous species, and that's just the ones they have documented." Raxnav's confidence visibly faltered. "Surely our suits will protect us." "We will see," Vextra said grimly. "Let's move out." The drop ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like burning meteors. The plan was simple: land near a major resource deposit, establish a base of operations, and begin extraction. The human resistance would be crushed swiftly and thoroughly. At least, that was the plan. Vextra's ship was the first to touch down in what the humans called Australia. According to the intelligence reports, it was a sparsely populated continent with abundant mineral resources, perfect for their purposes. As the hatch opened, Vextra was hit by a wave of heat that made his cooling systems kick into overdrive immediately. "Temperature reading?" he barked into his comm. 43 degrees Celsius, sir," came the reply from his environmental officer. "Within tolerable limits, but uncomfortable." "Deploy heat shields," Vextra ordered, then stepped onto Earth's soil for the first time. The landscape was vast, red, and seemingly empty. A flat expanse of dust and scrubby vegetation stretched to the horizon. It looked harmless. That should have been his first warning. "Establish perimeter," he commanded. "Scout teams, move out in standard formation. I want reports every 15 minutes." The soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, setting up defensive positions and scanning equipment. Vextra felt a small surge of pride. The Eighth was the best of the best. If anyone could handle this mission, they could. 3 hours later, everything went to hell. "Sir," a panicked voice crackled over the comm. "Scout Team 3 is down. Some kind of jumping creature attacked them." Before Vextra could respond, another call came in. "Medical emergency in Sector 7. Something bit Private Jack's tool. His arm is swelling to twice its normal size." Then another flying creature's attacking from above. "They are dropping some kind of caustic substance." And another, "The ground is collapsing under Team 6. There's something pulling them under." Vextra sprinted to the command post, shouting orders as he ran. "Full defensive positions. Activate all shields. Aerial drones for reconnaissance." By the time he reached the post, chaos had erupted across the camp. Soldiers were firing wildly at small, hopping creatures that moved with impossible speed. Others were swatting at tiny flying insects that somehow penetrated their armor and delivered painful stings. One poor soul was rolling on the ground, trying to dislodge a flat, brown creature that had attached itself to his neck and was draining his blood. "What in the void is happening?" Captain Raxnav demanded, firing his plasma rifle at a massive reptile that was dragging one of their soldiers into a murky water hole. "It's the wildlife," Vextra said, his worst fears confirmed. "Everything on this planet is evolved to kill." A scout rushed up, helmet visor cracked and armor dented. "Commander, we have spotted native humans approaching from the east." Vextra almost laughed. "Of course! Why not add the locals to this nightmare?" "How many?" he asked. Just one, sir." Now Vextra did laugh, a harsh, bitter sound. "One human? After all this, they send one. He's riding some kind of six-legged beast," the scout added nervously. "And he's carrying what appears to be a primitive projectile weapon." "Bring him in," Vextra ordered. "Alive. Maybe we can negotiate our way out of this disaster." The human was sunburned, weathered, and entirely unimpressed by the alien invasion force. He sat across from Vextra in the command tent, sipping from a container of liquid he called beer. "Let me get this straight," the human said, his accent thick and drawling. "You lot came all the way from another solar system to invade Earth, and you decided to start with Australia?" "It appeared optimal for resource extraction," Vextra replied stiffly. The human, who had introduced himself as Mick, snorted. "Mate, there's a reason only 25 million of us live on this continent, and it's not because the real estate is cheap. Everything here wants to kill you." "We have noticed," Vextra said dryly, as another medical alert pinged on his comm. "Your planet's biodiversity is aggressive." "You don't know the half of it," Mick said, taking another swig of beer. "The snakes and spiders are just the welcome party. Wait until you meet the saltwater crocs, or the box jellyfish, or the bloody drop bears." "Drop bears?" Vextra asked cautiously. Mick's eyes twinkled. "Nasty buggers, like koalas but carnivorous. Drop right onto your head from the trees. But that's not your biggest problem." "What is?" "Summer's coming. It will hit 50 degrees next week. And then there's the bushfires, and the cyclones in the north. And let's not forget the drought, or the flash floods when the drought breaks." Vextra stared at him. "Are you saying your planet's weather is as deadly as its wildlife?" "Deadlier," Mick confirmed cheerfully. "And that's just Australia. Wait until you see what the rest of Earth has to offer." As if on cue, Vextra's comm erupted with fresh emergency calls. Dropship 7 had been attacked by giant aquatic predators near a coastline. Dropship 12 reported massive, striped felines ambushing their troops in a region called Bengal. Dropship 15 was dealing with microscopic parasites that had somehow infiltrated their water supply. "But you are going to lose this war?" Mick said quietly, all humor gone from his voice. "Not because of our weapons or armies. Because Earth itself will kill you." Vextra looked at the casualty reports flooding his screen. In just 6 hours, they'd lost nearly 3,000 soldiers, not to human resistance, but to the planet itself. "What would you suggest?" he asked, pride giving way to desperation. Mick shrugged. "Go home. Tell your bosses this was a bad idea. We have spent thousands of years learning to survive here. You won't master it in a day. The Council doesn't accept failure," Vextra said grimly. "Then you'd better get used to dying," Mick replied, finishing his beer. "Because that's what happens to everything that doesn't adapt to Earth." As night fell, Vextra made a decision. He sent an emergency transmission to the flagship, requesting immediate extraction. High Admiral Zoltar's response was as expected. "Continue the mission, Commander. Failure is not an option." But as Vextra looked out at his remaining troops injured, terrified, and dwindling by the hour, he knew they had already failed. This wasn't a war. It was an extinction event, and they were on the wrong side of it. "Prepare for emergency evacuation," he ordered, overriding the High Admiral's command. "We are leaving." Captain Raxnav stared at him in shock. "Sir, that's direct insubordination." "It's survival," Vextra countered. "Look around you, Captain. We have lost a quarter of our forces to bugs and weather. What do you think will happen when the humans actually start fighting back?" As if to punctuate his point, a scream rang out from the perimeter. Another soldier down, this time to something called a platypus that apparently had venomous spurs. "A platypus," Vextra muttered incredulously. "It looks like it was assembled from leftover parts, and yet it's deadly." Raxnav hesitated, then nodded. "I will prepare the evacuation orders." But evacuation proved as challenging as the invasion. Of the 20 drop ships, only 12 remained operational. The others had been damaged by wildlife, weather, or environmental factors that the engineers couldn't even identify. As they scrambled to load troops onto the remaining vessels, the Australian outback delivered one final insult: rain. Not gentle rain, but a deluge that turned the dusty ground to mud within minutes, trapping vehicles and equipment. Flash flood. Mick yelled, pointing to a wall of water rushing toward them from the distant hills to get to higher ground. The resulting chaos cost them another 1,000 troops. By the time the surviving dropships lifted off, carrying their battered and traumatized cargo back to the flagship, Vextra knew his career was over. But at least he was alive, which was more than could be said for nearly half his battalion. In the end, only one dropship made it back to the flagship, the one carrying Vextra, Raxnav, and a handful of senior officers. The others were lost to atmospheric disturbances, mechanical failures caused by microscopic Earth organisms that had somehow infiltrated their systems, or the simple, brutal mathematics of overcrowding wounded soldiers in damaged vessels. As Vextra stepped onto the deck of the relentless pursuit, battered, filthy, and haunted by the deaths of thousands under his command, High Admiral Zoltar was waiting. "You have failed the Council, Commander," he said coldly. Vextra looked him directly in the eyes. "No, High Admiral. The Council failed us. They sent us to die on a planet that has perfected killing over billions of years of evolution. There was no victory to be had there. You will be court-martialed for this," Zoltar threatened. "Good," Vextra replied, "because I have a lot to say about this mission, and I think the entire Galactic Federation needs to hear it." He brushed past the stunned High Admiral, pausing only to add, "Oh, and I brought someone with me. I think the Council should meet him." Behind him, Mick stepped off the dropship, beer in hand and a bemused expression on his face. "G-Day," he said to the astonished alien officials gathering in the hangar. "Nice spaceship you have got here. Bit stuffy though, isn't it?" And as alarms began to sound throughout the flagship, something about Earth microorganisms being detected in the air filtration systems, Vextra allowed himself a small, grim smile. Perhaps the Council would learn something after all. The Galactic Council chamber fell into stunned silence as the holographic display finished showing the carnage on Earth. 67 council members from across the galaxy sat frozen in their ornate seats, mandibles clicking, tendrils writhing, and various breathing apparatuses whirring at accelerated rates. This cannot be accurate," said Councillor Paxul, his translucent skin pulsing with distress. 20,000 elite warriors decimated by primitive fauna? Vextra stood at attention before them, his once pristine commander's uniform now torn and stained, despite the ship's decontamination protocols. "I assure you, Counselor, the footage is unaltered. If anything, it understates the horror we experienced." High Admiral Zol Tar stepped forward, his cranial plating flaring with anger. The commander abandoned his post. He retreated without authorization and brought a native specimen aboard our flagship. "A native specimen who saved the lives of my remaining officers," Vextra countered. "And speaking of unauthorized actions, perhaps the High Admiral would like to explain why the Council wasn't informed about the 3 reconnaissance drones that were destroyed within hours of reaching Earth." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Supreme Councillor Kinyara, whose ancient form was mostly mechanical after centuries of life-extending procedures, leaned forward. "Is this true, Admiral?" Zol Tayar's posture stiffened. "The drones experienced technical malfunctions. It wasn't relevant to the mission briefing." "Technical malfunctions?" Vextra laughed bitterly. "One was consumed by microorganisms that devoured its outer casing. Another was struck by what the humans call lightning, atmospheric electrical discharges powerful enough to fry our most hardened circuitry. The third was pulled into the ocean by predators that crushed its reinforced hull like an egg." "And you knew this?" Kinyara asked Zoltar. "I considered the data inconclusive." "Inconclusive?" Vextra couldn't contain his outrage. "You sent 20,000 soldiers to die because the data was inconclusive." "Enough." Kinyara's voice reverberated through the chamber. "Where is this human now?" "In quarantine, Supreme Councillor," Vextra replied. "He's been remarkably cooperative, considering we attempted to invade his planet." "Bring him in," Kinyara ordered. "I wish to hear from this creature directly." Mick strolled into the council chamber as if he were entering his local pub, not the most powerful governing body in the known galaxy. He'd been given clean clothes, a close approximation of his worn jeans and flannel shirt, but had refused to part with his battered hat. "G-Day, your lordships," he said, offering a casual salute to the assembled council. "Nice setup you have got here. Very shiny." Vextra suppressed a groan. He'd tried to coach Mick on proper protocol, but the Australian had merely laughed and said, "Mate, when you have stared down a hungry dingo with nothing but a stick. Politicians don't seem all that scary." Human Supreme Councillor Kinyara addressed him. "You are called Mick?" "That's right. Mick Dunham. Cattle station owner, part-time tour guide, and apparently full-time alien invasion deterrent." He grinned, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation. "You assisted Commander Vextra during the retreat from your world." "Why?" Mick shrugged. "Seemed like the decent thing to do." They were in over their heads. "No offense, Commander," he added, nodding to Vextra. "None taken," Vextra replied dryly. "Your species is known to be territorial and aggressive," Councillor Paxul interjected. "Why help those who came to conquer you?" "First off, I reckon Mother Nature was doing a fine job of dealing with your invasion without my help," Mick said, scratching his stubbled chin. "Second, I figured someone needed to explain a few things about Earth that your fancy reports missed." "Such as?" Kinyara prompted. "Such as the fact that humans aren't actually the most dangerous thing on our planet. We are just the ones who have figured out how to survive there. And even that's debatable sometimes." Mick's expression turned serious. "Look, I don't know much about galactic politics or whatever you lot argue about up here, but I do know this. If you are thinking of coming back to Earth with a bigger army, you are making a mistake." "Is that a threat?" Zoltar demanded. Mick laughed. "Mate, it's a public service announcement. I'm trying to save your lives. Earth doesn't care about your weapons or your technology. It will kill you just the same." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some outraged, others curious, a few seemingly amused. Kinyara raised a mechanical appendage for silence. "Commander Vextra, you led this mission. What is your assessment?" Vextra took a deep breath. This was the moment his entire career, and possibly his life, hinged upon. "Supreme Counselor, members of the Council, I believe Earth should be reclassified as a Class X Deathworld and placed under permanent quarantine." Gasps and protests filled the room. Class X designation was reserved for planets so inhospitable that contact was forbidden by galactic law. Only 3 worlds currently held that status. "That is absurd," Zoltar shouted. "The planet has valuable resources we need. The planet has over 8 million species, most of which can kill us in ways we don't even understand yet," Vextra countered. "We lost 17,000 soldiers in less than 12 hours. Not to humans, but to spiders and snakes and microorganisms and weather." "And that was just Australia," Mick added helpfully. "Wait till you meet the polar bears or the mosquitoes. Nasty little blighters carry all sorts of diseases." "Diseases?" Counselor Paxul's translucent skin paled further. "What diseases?" Mick started counting on his fingers. "Malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika, West Nile virus, and that's just from one type of bug. Then you have got your bacterial infections, your fungi, your parasites." "Enough," Zoltar interrupted. "This is clearly an exaggeration designed to protect their world from rightful exploitation." "Is it?" Vextra pulled up another holographic display. "This is the current situation aboard the Relentless Pursuit. 3 decks have been quarantined due to an outbreak of what the medical team believes is a terrestrial fungus. It's growing inside our air filtration systems, releasing spores that cause severe respiratory distress. 50 crew members are already infected, with 7 fatalities so far." The council chamber grew deathly quiet. "And that," Vextra continued, "is from less than 24 hours of limited contact with one small part of Earth. Imagine what full-scale colonization would bring." Supreme Counselor Kinyara's mechanical eyes whirred as they focused on Mick. "Human, your world seems impossibly hostile. How does your species survive there?" Mick grinned. "Adaptability, mostly. Plus a healthy dose of respect for things that can kill us. We have had millions of years to figure out which berries will poison you, which waters hide predators, which pretty animals will rip your face off. We pass that knowledge down, generation to generation. But even with all that, Earth still kills plenty of us." "Yet you thrive," Kinyara observed. "We are stubborn," Mick said with a shrug. "And we are curious. Bad combination, really. Gets us into all sorts of trouble, but we have managed so far." Vextra saw his opportunity and seized it. "Supreme Counselor, rather than viewing Earth as a resource to be exploited, perhaps we should consider it a potential ally to be cultivated. A species that can survive on such a world must have knowledge and adaptations we could learn from." Zoltar scoffed. "Ally? With primitives who haven't even mastered interstellar travel? Primitives who survived what our elite forces could not," Vextra reminded him quietly. The debate raged for hours. Counselors argued about resources, military strategy, biological containment protocols, and the legal implications of a Class X designation. Through it all, Mick sat calmly, occasionally offering comments that simultaneously horrified and fascinated the council. "Yeah, we have got these little octopuses in Australia that are about the size of your palm. Beautiful blue rings on them. Venom can kill you in minutes. No antidote. There's this frog in the Amazon that has enough poison on its skin to kill 10 adult humans. Locals use it to coat their arrow tips. Don't even get me started on prions. Not alive, not dead, just misfolded proteins that turn your brain to mush. You can't kill them because they are not technically alive in the first place." Finally, Supreme Counselor Kinyara called for a vote. The holographic tally appeared above the center of the chamber, 43 in favor of quarantine, 24 against. It is decided, Kinyara announced. Earth will be designated a Class X Deathworld, effective immediately. All vessels are ordered to maintain a minimum safe distance from the solar system. Commander Vex Tra, you will oversee the establishment of automated warning beacons at the system's edge. Vex Tra bowed deeply, relief washing over him. Thank you, Supreme Counselor. As for you, human, Kinyara turned to Mick. Arrangements will be made to return you to your world. Mick tipped his hat. Much appreciated. Though I do have one suggestion before I go. Yes? You might want to thoroughly clean this ship. And I mean thoroughly. Earth stuff has a way of hitchhiking. The decontamination process took nearly a month. Despite the most advanced technology in the galaxy, Earth's biological stowaways proved remarkably persistent. The fungal outbreak spread to 5 more decks before it was contained. Microscopic arthropods were discovered breeding in the ship's hydroponics bay. A colony of bacteria had somehow established itself in the water recycling system, producing a toxin that caused hallucinations in 3 different species of crew members. And then there were the spiders. Somehow, against all odds, a female huntsman spider had laid eggs in the cargo hold. The resulting offspring, hundreds of fast-moving, hardy arachnids, triggered a ship-wide panic when they emerged. It took a dedicated team of biological containment specialists working around the clock to track down and eliminate every last one. Through it all, Mick observed with a mixture of amusement and genuine concern, offering helpful advice based on a lifetime of dealing with Australia's deadliest residents. You have got to check inside your boots every morning, he told a group of increasingly paranoid security officers. That's where they like to hide. By the time the relentless pursuit was declared safe, Zoltar had been demoted, Vextra had been promoted to oversee the new Earth quarantine zone, and Mick had become something of a celebrity among the crew. I still don't understand, Vextra said as they prepared the shuttle that would return Mick to Earth. Your world is a death trap. Everything there seems designed to kill. Why do you stay? Mick smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Because it's home, mate. For all its dangers, Earth is beautiful in ways I can't even describe. The sunrise over the outback, the stars at night, the feeling when a rainstorm breaks the heat, it's worth the risk. Extra considered this. Perhaps someday, when we have learned more about surviving hostile environments, we might visit again. As guests, not invaders. You'd be welcome at my station anytime, Mick said, extending his hand in the human gesture of friendship. I'd show you the parts of Australia that don't want to kill you. There's at least 3 or 4 of them. Vextra laughed and clasped Mick's hand. I may take you up on that offer, eventually. As the shuttle departed, carrying Mick back to the Deathworld he called home, Vextra ordered the ship to a safe distance. The warning beacons were deployed, their automated messages broadcasting in all known languages. Danger. Class X Deathworld. Do not approach. But Vextra added a second message, one that only the most curious or desperate might decode. Earth. Home to 8 billion survivors. Respect them. 6 cycles later, Vextra sat in his new office on Monitoring Station Epsilon, reviewing the latest reports from the Earth quarantine zone. The holographic display showed the planet rotating slowly, blue and green and achingly beautiful from a distance. Commander, his assistant said, entering with a data pad. We have intercepted another transmission. 7th one this month. Vextra sighed. Let me guess. The Krexnar? Yes, sir. They are still trying to argue that the quarantine is unnecessary and that their mining technology could extract Earth's resources without significant contact. Send them the standard response, along with footage from drop sites 7 through 15, Vextra instructed. That usually changes their minds. Already done, sir. The assistant hesitated. There's something else. A transmission from Earth, addressed to you personally. Vextra's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. From Earth? How? They don't have our communication technology. It appears they salvaged and reverse-engineered one of our emergency beacons. The signal is crude but functional. Curiosity piqued. Vextra activated his private display. The image was grainy and flickered occasionally, but he instantly recognized the weathered face and battered hat. G-Day, Commander. Mick's voice crackled through the speakers. Bet you didn't expect to hear from me again. Found this gadget in the bush where one of your ships went down. Took some tinkering, but the folks at the university helped me get it working. Extra couldn't help but smile. Trust a human to figure out alien technology with nothing but determination and ingenuity. Just wanted to let you know there's no hard feelings about the invasion attempt, Mick continued. In fact, I have been thinking. Your lot seemed mighty interested in our minerals. Maybe we could work out some kind of trade arrangement? You stay in orbit, we send up the stuff you need. Everybody wins. Mick's face grew serious. Look, I know your council's scared of Earth, and fair enough too. But humans have been trading with each other for thousands of years, even when we are scared of each other. Maybe our species could do the same. The transmission faded out briefly, then returned. Anyway, if you are interested, send a signal back on this frequency. Oh, and if you do decide to come visit my station someday, bring some of that blue drink your medical officer gave me. It's tasty stuff. The screen went dark. Vextra sat back in his chair, mind racing with possibilities. Trade with Earth? The Council would never approve it. The quarantine was absolute. Yet. He thought of the 17,000 soldiers who died on that mission. A pointless waste. But what if their deaths could lead to something unprecedented? A new kind of relationship between vastly different worlds? Vextra pulled up a secure channel to Supreme Counselor Kin Yara's office. This would require the highest authorization and the most delicate diplomacy. But first he recorded a short response to Mick. Message received, friend. The blue drink is called Core Lax. I will bring a case when I come. He hesitated, then added, your suggestion has merit. Stand by for further communication. And Mick? Keep your boots checked. As he sent the transmission hurtling through space toward the beautiful Deathworld, Vextra felt something he hadn't experienced since before the disastrous invasion. Hope. Perhaps, in the end, there would be more than one survivor of their encounter with Earth. Perhaps there would be two entire civilizations, finding a way to coexist despite the deadliest planet in the galaxy standing between them. After all, if humans could learn to survive on Earth, surely the rest of the galaxy could learn to work with humans. Just from a very, very safe distance,